You're watching a Nighthawk Network presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Apologies to Ro because I could not find her theme music for this particular show this evening for some reason. But nonetheless, this is Speaking Freely with your host, Ms Gigo, and we will not hold you up. Without further ado, here is your host, Ms Gigo herself, Ms Gigo Rhodes Simmons.
Welcome, welcome everyone to Speaking Freely with Ms Gigo. Tonight's topics, the first topic we're going to get into is reverse racism real, and the second topic is fumbling your mate. Now, with the second topic, I know a lot of y'all scroll through your Instagram, your TikTok, even Facebook, and you heard that Meg Thee Stallion posted about Klay Thompson cheating on her. So that's why the second topic is called fumbling your mate. Because I don't understand how you have a woman like that and then you fumble her by cheating. But the first topic, reverse racism, we know I I want y'all to give y'all opinions if it's real or not. You know, white people think reverse racism is real and it's not. We all know what the definition of racism is. And those are the topics that we are going to get into tonight. Always post your comments, and we're just going to jump right into the first topic, which is reverse racism real? Now, when I'm on TikTok and I come across these videos where it's a black person getting into it with a white person, and let's say if you remember let's put it this way, if you remember the Jeffersons and George would always call Tom honky. So just it's basically that them being called a name out a name, and now they're saying this reverse racism. But when you look up the definition of racism, it says you have to be oppressed. So when has black people or any other nationality oppressed white people? See, these people, some of these white people are so dumb that they don't understand what racism is. And so I'm asking y'all the question, is reverse racism real? Like George would say honky or any other name he could think of to call a white person on the Jeffersons. We as other national, I won't say just black people, but we as other nationalities, we say the same things. We say other words to describe white people. So is that considered racism? Reverse racism because we call them hunky or any other term we may have for them. Is that considered racism? I want to know from y'all that is tuned in. Is reverse racism real? For me, no. Because I ain't never oppressed no white person. I ain't never called a white person hunky or any other name that we think of to call them. I've never done it because I've never interacted with a white person like that to where I needed to use that kind of language. But I'm sure there are some of you out there who've come across white people and you might have had to use that language. Is that considered being racist towards a white person? I mean, like I said, the word oppressed is in the definition of racism. So we've never, we've, us as black people or any other nationality has never oppressed a white person. So how can there be reverse racism? But everybody got their opinion. So what do you think, E?
Okay. Now, understand, as you are talking about it, you're speaking upon racism as simply being disrespectful toward another race in terms of calling them out their name, what have you. But
Mm-hmm.
I also look at racism as deeper than that because there are people who basically will not sell you items in their store because you are a different race. There are people that will not sell you a home because you are a different race than them. There are people who basically will not deal with you or your family because you are different. There are people who are mixed couples who basically don't deal with one half or the other half of the family because that part of the family chooses not to contend with that person anymore because they're dealing with somebody from a different race. There's more layers to it than just that. Now, what Rhoda is talking about, if you go on TikTok, you do see quite a few people addressing the fact that they feel like black people are being racist toward them. By definition, as she said, you cannot be racist toward another person's race if you are not in a position where you can control or oppress them in a way to where they are not able to live a comfortable life. All right, keep in mind, I live in the city that is Detroit. Detroit is the largest percentage of any larger city in the United States where the primary people who live here are African American. However, we do have several different races that coincide here in Detroit. We have Lebanese people who live here. We have Hispanic people who live here. We have a Chinese population. We have an Indian population that lives throughout the city and the surrounding areas. And we all get along pretty well for the most part. Now, there are certain areas of the city where certain races may not feel as welcome. For example, one of the places I love to go in the city is Southwest. Southwest is where a lot of the Hispanic people live. But I feel very welcomed when I go to Southwest. They feel like, okay, yeah, you're a black person, but we welcome you here. We welcome your business here. They have a lot of good food trucks and stuff in Southwest. So me being one of those big guys, I like to go down there and get my taco on. You know what I'm saying? Or my burrito, or whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
nothing like when they cook it fresh right off the truck or whatnot. So there's that. There's also the Dearborn area that's right close to myself. And a lot of people who live in the Middle East are located there. And I oftentimes go there to get a shawarma or something like that. And I also feel relatively welcome in certain parts of Dearborn. Now, as you go a little further into the suburban area, where it's primarily people who are Caucasian, you tend not to feel as comfortable in certain parts of those areas. Okay. Now, take for example, there's an area in Oak Park where there are several people who are Islamic Jewish people that live there, and they are a very tight knit community. And I like to see them because they are very respectful. They're always dressed very well. You don't see them dressed with all type of outlandish stuff and whatnot. They go about their daily routines. They have their places they like to frequent. They don't bother nobody. They be chilling. You see what I'm saying? But some people don't like them because they don't understand their culture. I feel like that's part of the problem. There's a lack of understanding of where we come from on either side. Okay. Because keep in mind, some of my best friends in the world don't look like me at all. They are white as the day is long, and I love them like they are family. Okay. And there are other people out here in the audience that feel the same way about some of us. It's just the problem is that In this society, the more racist people seem to be the ones that are the loudest in what they have to say. So we know their opinion more so than the people that's living in harmony. And that's part of the issue. It's not enough TikToks about people like, yeah, this is my buddy and we get along. And if there is videos like that on TikTok, guess what? They don't get no views. Ain't nobody trying to see that. Ain't nobody trying to share that. But when somebody talk
Nope.
about, yeah, black people do me wrong or not, them the ones that we the black people want to watch because we want to comment, and those the white people want to watch because they want to comment. That's where part of the problem comes in.
Yeah, I agree with you. E. Like, but what gets me is when we got a Karen or a Ken, and they want to use the reverse racism thing, and it puzzles, like, when it puzzles the person who's interacting with them when they say it's reverse racism. It's like you got that dumbfounded look on your face when they say it's reverse racism. I know it ain't, you know it ain't, but there are some people of our kind who like to cater to the white people, would agree with them and say yes, there it is reverse racism. Just like how you got those white people who say I'm not racist, I got black friends. You got black people who's gonna say the same thing and say I'm not racist, I got white friends.
Okay, let us be very clear so don't nobody get it twisted. We are not here saying that all white people are racist, nor are we saying all black people are not racist. What we are saying is that there is an issue, and part of the issue comes from lack of understanding.
Yep, because just when you, as a young kid, you get taught, right? You get taught what your what morals are, what morals are, right? And a lot of white people get taught racism. They get taught how to be racist, and there are some who stick with what they've been taught throughout their life, and so they become racist, like the people that taught them. It don't have to be their parent that taught them. It could be a grandparent. It could be an uncle. It could be a cousin. Someone taught them how to be racist. And because this is an elder, you gotta listen to your elders. So you believe what they tell you. There's a guy on TikTok named Jolly Good Ginger. If you ever seen his videos on TikTok, he has explained through many of his TikTok videos he grew up with his father being racist and teaching him how to be racist. And then when he got older, he realized what he was being taught by his father was wrong. And so he left, he left, and he figured it out, you know, he figured it out on his own that what he was taught wasn't right. And his his like I said, his father taught him how to be racist, but he was he never followed his father's ideology, but he was taught that. And what's crazy is, well, not crazy, but his mother, after leaving his dad, had more children, but she had more children with a black man. So he has half brothers and sisters that are black, and that and you would, a person who's growing up is being taught to be racist, you would never think that if you go down their family tree that there will be black people in the family tree. You would never think that. because of what they've been taught. So for all those tuned in through Facebook, through YouTube, put your comments in. Put your comments in, if you think reverse racism is a real thing. So, and that's what we going that's the topic we on right now. Is reverse racism real? That's what the topic is. There are some who might, like I said, they want to be down with the white people so bad that if a white person says it is real, they go, "Yep, it's real." It's like, look at Candace Owens, right? If if a white person said, like I said, white person said it's real, she would agree. And the only reason why she's agreeing is because, white people are her bread and butter.
I mean, I look at Candace Owens' case a little different. I don't feel like a lot of the stuff that she spouts out there as her opinions are truly her opinions. As you said, she's looking at the bread, but in other words, what gets her money, what gets her
Mm-hmm.
paid. Being controversial gets her money and gets her paid. So I don't think everything that she says in regards to that is based on her true and honest opinion. I think it's based on what is the best side of the bread to butter at that moment. So I don't know. I mean, because remember, the same person that spouts all this stuff on Fox News Nation or all that other stuff will be the same person that will go on the Breakfast Club and have a different story to tell with that audience. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would necessarily use her as the perfect example.
But she's one of those. But I'm using her because she's one of those black people that she would, if a white person said something, she would. I know she's doing it for her bread and butter, but she's one of those people that would agree with them, even if what they saying ain't true. She still would agree with them because that's you know being on their side is where all her money is coming from. Even though they don't really like her, they just tolerating her because she's on their side. Kanye, I, I wouldn't say I don't. No, I wouldn't say Kanye West, but yeah,
All right,
is it is
I would say another example would be someone like say um let's go with Stacey Dash. Okay. Now understand Stacey Dash is actually a biracial person, but yet it would appear that her opinions tend to sway toward her Caucasian side as opposed to her black side in
yep,
regards to race and how that works. Because again, I think part of the issue is, as you pointed out earlier, and smartly so, some people's issue is that racism is a learned behavior.
yep,
Because understand, there are people among us who live among us, and the first time their child notices anything different between them and a person that is not of color, they tell them, no, we are all people, we all the same. It's just that they are white and you are black, or vice versa, and y'all still people, y'all all bleed the same and all of that. And once that child learns that early on, that is their thought process. There are people, on the other hand, who grew up with hundreds of years of oppression and have been taught by their mama and their daddy and their granny and their grandpa that white people are bad or black people are bad, they're not human, they monkeys and all that other foolishness that racist people teach their children. So that's part of what comes into play here too.
And also, I was just thinking, like, other nationalities want to be so close to white people that they too believe in what white people say about black people. And you see what we're going through now in this country, where all the immigrants are being shipped, being shipped out of the country. They're not being sent back to their own country. They're sending them to somewhere else. They got Trump think he's slick. We know he got like a concentration camp for the immigrants. You know, he got a concentration camp for the immigrants, and that's where he's taking them with by using ICE to do it. Yep, by using ICE to do it. You know, so like you can still comment on this topic. For those of you who are on YouTube or on Facebook, you can still comment on this topic. But we're gonna take a commercial break, and then we're gonna get into the second topic, which is fumbling your mate. Yep, that is our second topic, fumbling your mate. And just like last week, we had a song to go with one of the topics. We have another song. It's called "Fumbled" by an artist named Vanna. And we're gonna hear that song, and then we're gonna get when we come back from commercial, we're gonna hear that song, and then we're gonna get into the topic. And when you listen to the song, I really want you to listen to the lyrics of what she is saying when she's talking about being fumbled. So we're gonna take that commercial break.
All right, we'll be back after these words from Nighthawk Network. Nighthawk Network, our voices, our people.
From the heart of Detroit, a new sound takes flight. Hawk World Radio, powered by AI, made for your vibe. Local energy, global reach. Hawk World Radio Detroit, where the future of sound.
This is the story about an African American woman who is passionate about professional wrestling and goes to countless events. She then, one day, gets the idea to start a wrestling talk podcast to talk about her favorite wrestlers and wrestling programs. She has a home podcasting room full of wrestling memorabilia that she uses to do the show, and every week you can tune in and join in the conversation.
All right, and we are back, and we're gonna get into the song called "Fumbled" by Vanna.
You had me now, you fumbled me. For a woman that never loved you, my love was real. And since you've been with her, now you're feeling insecure. You had me now, you fumbled me. And the woman you chose don't even know how to love. You fumble. Fumble me. The real love you needed, you fumbled in me. Now that you realize I'm the real love you need, you wanna come crawling back after fumbling me, but it's too late. You had me now, you fumbled me, and the woman you chose was never good to love. You fumbled me. You fumbled me. Now someone else. You fumbled me. Picked up what you let go. You fumbled me. You fumbled me. Now my new love is getting your love. You fumbled me. You fumbled me. You fumble me. You fumble me. Fumble me. You fumble me. Mhm.
That is Fumbled, and the artist's name is Vanna. And what made me choose this topic is Meg Thee Stallion blasts Klay Thompson, that's who the NBA player she was dating, for cheating. And it says Meg Thee Stallion blasts Klay Thompson, cheating had me around your whole family playing house. And there's she posted a video on social media of her cooking dinner. I don't know if this was around Thanksgiving time last year, or I can't remember when it was, but it was. She posted a video to social media. His father was there. I think siblings. I don't know about his mother, but I know his father was there. Klay Thompson's dad, and she was cooking. She was cooking for them. And I get what she means by having me around your family playing house. Like, if you're not sure, if you're not sure that I'm the one, then let's establish that. Right? Let's establish that, because I shouldn't. It might have been too early for her to meet the fam, but I guess how you head over heels for someone, so you introduce them to the family real quick to let them know that this could be the one. And I think that's what he did, not what she did, what he did. And she was being, because there's other videos of her and him together, spending time together. She's cooking for him and stuff like that. And to find out you doing all of this and the man's cheating, to find out that he done cheated. And I saw, and I'm like, Klay Thompson, he's alright looking. He's not the best thing since sliced bread, but he's alright looking in my opinion. And I listened to a TikTok video earlier today where the woman said that basically she she upgrade basically she upgraded him. When you think about it, nobody was thinking about Clay Thompson, and now nobody was thinking about Clay Thompson in that way. And once he got with Meg the Stallion, she upgraded him. So now, because he's with Meg the Stallion, he's done got upgraded. Now these other women see him like, hmm, he look he look good now. Now that he got with Meg, he looking good now. But before, nobody was checking for him, right? So he done lost the good. Put it this way, to me, he done lost a good thing. And when he realizes that, he gonna try to get it back. And I hope she don't be the fool and take him back. I hope she don't be the fool and take him back. Like just like move on. But he fumbled her. You had to she it ain't like she was out there cheating on you. Meg Thee Stallion right now is on Broadway in the musical Moulin Rouge. So it's not she's busy working. You 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 playing in the forgot what team you play for, but I don't even is it what team you play for, E?
Dallas Mavericks.
And they're not even in the playoffs.
Nope.
So
Okay. Now, there's the subject itself, and then there's this particular situation. These are two separate things, okay? If we having a discussion about you being a man who has found a good woman and she is doing her best to look out for you on all levels, and ultimately you figure that's not good enough for you, you still need to be out here, thusly you fumbled her. Okay, that's one subject. Let's
mhm.
talk about the actual two people involved in this particular subject. Meg the Stallion and Clay Thompson. Okay, now keep in mind, this has been going on for the better part of the summer. Okay, when it first was announced that they were a couple, I saw the initial post of them playing golf and them having little picnics and things of that nature. Okay, in the comments is where I often find myself because I want to know what people think about what they see in here. Okay,
Mhm.
the very beginning, people were saying this will not last. Okay, they was not buying them as a couple. I myself was hopeful, but I am not surprised that it is over because the two aesthetics didn't fit well for me. Okay, understand. First of all, let's take the fact that Meg is like in her late 20s and Clay is in like his mid to late 30s. Okay, so Clay, older dude, Meg, younger female. Okay. Meg is still very much on the come up in terms of her career. It's like basically
Mhm.
put those two pictures next to each other and ask, okay, who is this? More people will know who Meg is as opposed to who Clay is.
Yep. That's
Now,
what the lady said in that TikTok video too.
now here's the thing. When we talk about the whole fumbling of it all, as if to say, okay, you dude, you messed up. You had a good thing. You should have known better. Understand, Clay Thompson is a multi millionaire. When you look at the money standpoint of it, Clay is probably worth more money than Meg the Stallion.
Mhm.
Okay, keeping in mind he's been in the NBA for about 15 years and they have multiple max contracts. Okay, Clay is also a four-time NBA champion. Nothing to sneeze at. Okay, he spent most of his career at Golden State, which is in that LA area. Okay. His father, let me point out, was also an NBA champion with the Los Angeles Lakers. So he has grown up in that environment his entire life. So let's be very clear. He's been around. his share of beautiful women before Meg ever came along. Let's put that on the shelf for a minute. Back to Meg. Meg the Stallion is Meg the Stallion, okay? If you don't
Mhm.
know, go online and look at what she looked like, okay? Is many a dude like myself that would be like, oh, Meg, want to be bothered with me? Sign me up. That's one bad sister there. And that's just from what you see, okay? Now, once you get to
Mhm.
know her story about how she take care of her mama and her grandma, how she's actually college educated, how she actually is was a nursing student at some point, you know what I'm saying? All the great things
Mhm.
that you get to know about her story outside of being a rapper, you then say, okay, this looked like a quality person that I would want to be with, or I would want somebody in my circle to be with. Okay. So
Mhm.
yeah, I know in the ideal world, when we think about female rappers these days, we think more along the lines of a Cardi B or a Lotto or Ice Spice and the type of stuff they like to wear and the type of booty wiggling they like to do. Let me throw Glorilla in there as well. You know, we think along those lines, all right? So you think female rappers, all they care about is what people looking at is that booty, and then of course what we know of Meg from that world is okay. What is Meg best known for in her rap? It's not her fact that she can freestyle and whatnot. She's known for twerk.
Mhm.
They talk about how that's part of what messed Kamala up, having her on the campaign twerking for Kamala, etc., etc. Okay, that's that. Let's put that back on the shelf for a minute. Now, I don't know how these two people came to know each other or came to be in each other's universe, but they did, okay? In the end, Clayton had women, she didn't had dudes, okay? Let's be very clear about that. They was both all right without each other. But when they came together, it looked like they had something special. But again, remember, that's based on what we were shown on social media. Outside the realm of that, I imagine they had a typical relationship. One where,
Mhm.
let's point out that they spent much time apart once the season started. Okay? He was doing his thing in Dallas. She was working on her album and this and that and this. Okay? That's what my personal thought is. That's when stuff went left. Because in the world known as the NBA, they have these things called groupies. All right?
Mhm.
Now, Clay had groupies before, but imagine the type of groupies that was on him, knowing that now she would he would Meg the Stallion. There are women out there, and unfortunately, it is true that said, "Oh, he with Meg. I see about that. I can take him from Meg." And then I'll be known as the girl that took Clay from Meg. You see what I'm saying? So I
Mhm.
imagine there were people that had that thought process. Now, here's the part of the story that we have not talked about. According to one of the rumors, the girl that supposedly Clay cheated with, allegedly, we're going to throw allegedly in there just for the sake of argument, was Lexi Brown. Lexi Brown is a WNBA player that once played with the Los Angeles Sparks. An attractive young lady. She's no Meg the Stallion, but she is nice looking. Okay. Now I don't know what his relationship was with her beforehand, during, or even what it is after now. But I'm assuming he knew of her before he knew Meg, because of course, if he was at Golden State during the time she was with the LA Sparks, then I'm sure that's what that circle is about. Now, the fumble part. Okay. From what we saw on social media, it seemed like she treated him very well, fed him,
Mhm.
and went to family functions, cooked for his family, all of that. Okay. What we don't know is what was it outside of that. Was she kind of a outside of that? Don't know. He appeared to be a very nice guy on social media and dealing with her. Outside of that, was he an a-hole? Again, we don't know. We only know her side of the story because she is the one who's been posted. At some point, somebody gonna catch up with Clay. He gonna end up on one of these podcasts or whatever, and they gonna be like, "What happened, Clay? How'd you fumble, old girl, or did she mess up?" And at that point, we might get a whole nother story. I mean, just like going back to my girl Cardi B and all these relationships she find herself in, and in the end, they don't work out. Is it she just picking the wrong dudes? Or are these dudes finding up stuff about her later on in the relationship? They say, no, I can't really deal with you like that. I'd rather deal with blah, blah, blah. So again, there's the fumbling of the mate, which of course what you're saying makes perfect sense and I agree. But then there's this particular situation. And since we don't know all the sides, I kind of got to leave it open ended. Me, myself, I'm more of a fan of Meg than I am of Clay. But in the same token, I just didn't think that was going to work long term. That's my thought.
So for me, like I'm I'm no big Meg Thee Stallion fan. I know who she is. I know who Clay Thompson is. You know how they say opposites attract, and maybe that's what it was. Two opposite people attracted, kind of. I won't say fully attracted. I would say kind of attracted to each other and try to see where it goes. And I could say the same thing for Cardi B and Stephon Diggs. Because he's not the type of dude I think I would see with Cardi B. And I think the same people felt the same that Clay is not the kind of dude that they would see with Meg Thee Stallion. Because the last boy she was with was a rapper. He did her dirty. And so I guess Meg is looking for that clean, what we call the clean cut dude. I think she's looking for that type of dude to be in a relationship with. She don't want to deal with no more rappers. I don't think she want to deal with any kind of person in the industry. Period.
And,
I
and,
think she
and
wants that clean.
honestly, I would suggest that for her and Cardi B. Don't deal with nobody famous at all. Just deal with Joe Sixpack. I know it's hard because people feel like if we not on the same financial level, it's hard to contend with that. It's other people out here. I mean, I look at people like Serena Williams, for example, who end up dealing with somebody that wasn't an athlete or none of that, but had much money. You know what I'm saying? Billionaire, in
Mm-hmm.
fact. I'm not saying they
Yes,
both got a billionaire in their
he's the
future.
co-owner of the social app Reddit. He's the
Mm.
co-owner
But yeah, like
of
I said, I don't know if they're gonna pull somebody like that, but I think they could. I think they had the
social
personalities to do that.
app Reddit. And
Okay, Road is froze at the moment. I don't know if she's froze on her end, but she's froze on this end, and she is froze on the feed. So when she kicks back in, she can complete her thought on that. Um, like I said, I try to look at each situation in its own little entity. Okay. I kind of hate that it worked out this way for both of them because in my mind, I would like to think they are both decent people, but for whatever reason, they couldn't be decent to one another. Now, it could be possible that this may just be a bump in their road and that after all things come out and whatnot, Meg decides, okay, well, you know, I'll give you one more chance. Because these things happen. I mean, take Cardi B for example. It happened with Cardi B, where okay, initially Offset messed up and she left him alone, but here he come begging and coming back on her concert tour and her live show, Please Take Me Back, blah, 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 blah. Then they messed around, got married. He cheated multiple times during the marriage, and she took him back the first few times, but then finally said enough is enough. I would rather Meg not go through that with Clay if Clay is that type of dude. In the same token, if it was more to it than just the aspect of cheating, or perhaps she did it first, or whatever the case may be, I would like to hear Clay's side of the story on that. Because I'm, I would like to think he ain't that type of dude, but in the same token, he is an athlete, been one all his life, been around people like that all his life. Maybe that's the lifestyle, just like most of these other dudes. I don't know. So, like I said, as we waiting for Road to come back on, she basically wanted to know your comments in regards to this subject, which is fumbling your mate. Do you feel Clay fumbled Meg the Stallion in this scenario? What's your thoughts about people fumbling their mate in general? That is what she would like to hear from you, the audience, in regards to this particular topic. This is Speaking Freely with Ms Gigo, where we talk about various topics, and we would like to get your comments and opinions on them. Has not been many people chiming in this evening, but that's okay. You still have the opportunity to do so in these next few minutes, as I imagine we will have Road back on at that point. I'm not quite sure what happened technically on her end, but that is the topics for this evening. If you don't have a comment on that topic, perhaps you have a comment on her other topic this evening, which is reverse racism real? Do you feel that people who are white can be basically dealt with inappropriately race wise from black people? Do you feel, as Road does, that basically black people can't be racist because they are not in the role of the oppressor, as white people have been for hundreds of years here in this country? Whatever your thoughts on either subject is, we would like to hear from them. Even if you don't happen to tune in with us live, you can at least let us know your comments in the comments on the rebroadcast if you watch this later on. Again, we're going to give Rhoda a couple more minutes to see if she can pop back in. If not, then I might actually end this broadcast a little early. Keep in mind, Rhoda is also on Tuesdays for her show, The Indie Experience. Okay, hold on. Look like we may have Rhoda back now. Let us see here. Rhoda, are you there? Okay. No camera or microphone for Rhoda just yet. Stand by on that. But again, if you are an independent artist, whether it be you rap or you do music, if you are a producer of music, even, we would like for you to come on the show and talk about your art and talk about your process and what have you. If you are an author who are writing a book or have written multiple books and would like to talk about those things, you can come on the show as well. We would like to talk to you also. You are anybody into entertainment industry. For example, if you are into acting, or perhaps you are a dance professional who have done dances for artists that we may have heard of or maybe not have heard of. If you are somebody in that lane, we would like to hear from you on the show, The Independent Experience. So please contact Miss Nika Gigo Simmons on her Facebook page for that information so we can hook that up and you can come on the show on Tuesdays at 10 and talk about what you got going. Okay, I think we may have Road back now. Road, are you there?
There I go.
All right, go
And
ahead and
E, the
finish on
banner
up.
says the Indie Experience. It says the wrong thing. You got the banner saying the
I
Indie
was telling
Experience.
people about the show Tuesday and advertising for guests, bro. That is why.
Which is the show I do every Tuesday.
Yeah, that's why we were showing that banner. But yeah, go ahead and finish your thoughts.
So what's crazy is ever since I was, for me, ever since I was young, I always thought about I'm gonna get married, have children, right? Everybody, I think everybody in their lifetime, when they were young, thought about getting married, having children. And then you meet that person who you see yourself having the children with and getting married to, and then they fumble you. And it's like I said, because I fell so deep, I tried at it again and it still didn't work. And I've shared this story before, but the person did cheat. So I'm like kind of in the same boat as Meg, that here I am trying to be in a relationship and the person cheated. I've had I've dated many people and I've had now here's something that a person that I dated said to me, and they was I was out with my best friend. We was at the hangout spot we normally go to when we decide to go out, on the weekends. And it was a person I was dating. And so I see him talking to these two girls. So he's talking to a girl, and I'm like, okay, you know, there's nothing wrong if you're in a club and the person you're dating is talking to someone. They might know each other. You don't know if they don't know each other or not. But when I caught them talking to the other person, to another female, the answer I got from him was she was trying to console me. That is the most lamest excuse you can give when you get busted because the person you're talking to, see you talking to somebody else. He said she was consoling me, but you wasn't crying. Most people you didn't look upset. It wasn't like you was crying or nothing. That's what I was told. But most people, when they catch that person that they dealing with cheating or whatever, you know, you get a feeling. You get some kind of feeling. I didn't feel nothing when he said that. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't upset or anything. Wasn't upset. And when it happened again, when, when I was dating someone else, and I found out they were cheating, and I mentioned it, there was no, like, most people, when you get hurt, either one, you're gonna show some type of emotion that you hurt. You're gonna be crying. Most women in this type of situation, they cry. There was no, I was hurt, but it wasn't like there was no emotion coming out of me, you know. And you can't, as a man, you're in a relation, you're in a relationship. If a woman comes and hollers at you, you gotta nip that in the bud and say, I'm in a relationship. You know, Clay Thompson knew he was messing with Meg. I don't know if the situation, if they said they're an exclusive relationship, but still in all, you're dating Meg the Stallion. Everybody knows you're dating Meg the Stallion. So if you're out and about and people see you with someone that ain't Meg, there are people out there who are going to jump to conclusions and think you're cheating because they don't. But we have to understand sometimes it could be that person's relative, but she put it out there herself that he was cheating. There are women who come across to when they find out, they come across text messages. Either they snooping going through his phone, or his phone might be open and a text may come through from another chick. And he's like, well, I know his sister, that's not her name. I know his mother, that's not her name. You know what I'm saying? Or I know some of his relatives and that's not their name. So that's giving an inkling that he could be cheating. Or the same thing with a dude. You're not going through the phone, but the phone is open and the text comes through. It's a dude's name, and you know, like I said, you know the relative's name, so if it's not any of our relatives' name, you jump to that conclusion that they're cheating. But there's got to be honest communication when getting into a relationship. I can say that it got to be honest communication. If you're not looking for a serious relationship, but you do want to talk to someone, be upfront and say, look, I'm not looking for nothing serious right now, but I do want to get to know you. You know, we can go out, on occasion and see where this goes. You never know, maybe it will turn into something serious. You know, from either party, because I would I would hate for either, if it's the girl who fumbled it, I would hate for the man to be hurt, and and if it's the man doing the woman dirty, I would hate for her to be hurt, because now, because of most women, not all, is when they get hurt by a man and then they wind up meeting a new man, they kind of got this wall up, and they got it in the back of their mind that he may just be like the last. And because they got that in the back of their mind, they're not giving the new person a chance. Because as soon as he does something and it's similar to what the last did, she's going to assume he's just like the last. The same thing with a guy. If whatever the last girlfriend did, if the new person he's talking to does something that seems similar to what the last did, he's going to have that in his mind that she may be like the last. Even though it's not true, may not be true, but they're going to have them thoughts in their mind. They're going to have them thoughts in their mind. You know, it like, if you're not ready, just be upfront and honest. That goes both ways. If you're a female and you're talking to some guy and you're not looking for something serious, you let that person know. Because if they're looking for something serious and you're not, and they see you talking to someone else, you don't know how that's gonna set them off. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, have you fumbled? Have you been fumbled? Or have you fumbled someone and realized that they might have been the one, but they could have been the one, but you haven't seen them. They don't live in your area no more, so it's not like you run into them to be able to, to see if they could have been. So yeah, that is the two topics for tonight: fumbling your mate, and is reverse racism real? And the what would you do question, basically, have you ever been fumbled, or have you fumbled someone? I've never fumbled anyone, but I have been fumbled more than once. And it doesn't feel good being fumbled, especially when you really got true feelings for that person that fumbled you. And what's crazy is in my situation is I said, you know, because we built a friendship, that if the relationship don't work out, I still want to be friends. We could still be friends if the relationship don't work out. But you know, it never works out that way. You know, when you get fumbled, it never works out that way to where y'all stay friends. You know, but yeah. And this, if you heard the song that we played before the second topic called "Fumbled," if you listen to the words, she say he's now with a woman who one don't know how to love, and she never really loved him in the first place. Right? Think about that. Right? She never. Here's a woman. This man fumbled a real. You could say this man fumbled a real woman for a woman who never really loved him. He's thinking, but she's using him to get her man jealous. And there are women who do that. There are women who 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 use men who they know like them to make their man jealous. And like I said, these people, when people feelings are deep, you do not you do not those are the people you don't want to really mess with. When their feelings are deep and you hurt them, because you don't know how what you've done really hurt that person and how they react to what you have done. So E, have you ever fumbled someone or been fumbled? Can't hear you. You on mute. You're on mute.
By your definition, I've been fumbled more times than I care to acknowledge. Have I fumbled somebody? Maybe once. There was the scenario of the one person that I was engaged to, and I chose not to marry them because at that point we were both 20 years old and we was not ready for that commitment yet. That was my personal opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
one of her last things she said was, I think you will live to regret that. And I can't say that I did, but in talking to her years later, her whole thing was, well, I don't think you should have engaged me in the first place if you had no intentions of being with me. It's your loss now that I'm married and you're not. But I say to her at that point, it's like the only reason why we even got engaged was because every day you kept talking about we should get married, we should get married. It'll be so much better we get married, etc., etc. And in the end, you had the understanding that we would get married and you would be basic stay home wife and whatnot. We talking 1990 something. We both in college. That's not what I wanted for both of us. We both went to college for a reason. In the end, I guess not because I ultimately stayed and graduated. She ultimately left and did exactly that. Became a housewife and had kids. It wouldn't have worked. So when looking at it that
It's
way,
not.
maybe I didn't fumble her.
It wouldn't have worked because she want she wants something that you didn't want.
We wanted different things, exactly.
She wanted something you didn't want, and she kept. See, that's the thing, ladies. You can't throw in a man's face. Like I get it. I said to myself, I can only do 5 years. If I cannot go past 5 years and not have this person I'm with put a ring on my finger. I get it. For some
Well,
people,
it wasn't even 6 months for us, and like I said,
no,
we
no,
both was
I'm
20.
saying, for some people,
Right.
it may take longer, like 5, because some people ain't ready. You may be ready, but that person's not ready, and some I don't think I would want to wait. I can't spend. We already did 5. Now I gotta wait another 5, and for you to tell me now you're ready. I'm not, because like I already wasted 5. I gotta waste 5 more. Because there are people who been with people for like 10 years and then finally got married. I can't do it. I can't
I'm
do it.
I'm in my 50s now. I'm not doing that.
No, even I was what in my 40s or maybe 30s, and
Even then,
I
I'm
wasn't
not
doing
doing
that.
that.
No,
No, no.
I can't. Cause you already by year 2, if y'all already spent a year together, you know, going into the second year, if you still want to be with that person, as you get into year 3, you definitely should know if this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Not saying you have to propose at year 3, but you would know around that time if this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, have children with. Why
Three
stay 5 years with someone knowing your intentions is not to marry them?
3 years should be more than enough time for you to get to know a person well enough to whether you're gonna be with them long term.
Yep.
Period.
Because it don't make no sense for you to be with someone for stay with them for 10 years, and then that's when you just the 10th year is when you decide, oh, I'm ready for marriage now. If you knew this person wanted marriage but you wasn't ready, you should have let them go. Like they say, if it's meant to be, that person will come back into your life. You should let her explore, find somebody else that's gonna give her or give him what they wanted, because you staying there is holding that person back from having real love and the happy ending they always wanted. That's how I see it. But what's crazy? What Like I said, I've been fumbled, but I've never fumbled anyone. And in one of my situations, even though they were separated, they never divorced. So I started realizing that I'm never gonna have this person, fully have the person, because if I'm thinking of marriage, I can never marry this person if I feel that person was the one. They still married, even though they separated. They live in different. The spouse live in another state, but still, y'all still legally married, even though you've been separated for whatever how many years. So any woman that gets the next woman that get with that person, they're gonna be in the same boat as I was. Never gonna be able to fully have that person. Knowing you, if you know you want to get married, have children, you're not gonna. I mean, you can still have children with that person, but you're never gonna be able to marry them. And most people don't get the divorce because they say it's expensive to get a divorce. If I really wanted that divorce, I'd be stacking up paper, stacking up my money, putting money aside every month so I can get this divorce from that person. I wouldn't stay married because all you're doing is making yourself miserable. That's all you're doing is making yourself miserable. So, have you been, for those who are tuned in, have you been fumbled? or ever fumble someone, you know, that's the topic we on right now. And if you have been, I sympathize with those who's been fumbled. If you've done the fumbling, I'm sure after a while you thought about it, and you probably said to yourself, he or she was really nice. I don't know why I did that. You know, I was wrong for doing what I did to them. Yeah. So, if you haven't heard the song, we're gonna play the song "Fumble" one more time, and then we're gonna basically end the show for the night. So, play "Fumble" one more time, and then we could end the show.
You had me now, you fumble me. For a woman that never loved you, my love was real. And since you've been with her, now you're feeling insecure. You had me now, you fumble me. And the woman you chose don't even know how to love. You fumble. Fumbled me. The real love you needed, you fumbled me. Now that you realize I'm the real love you need, you wanna come crawling back after fumbling me, but it's too late. You had me now, you fumbled me, and the woman you chose was never good to love. You fumbled me. Now someone else picked up what you let go. Now my new love is getting your love. You fumble me. Fumble me.
It's "Fumbled" by Vanna. Yep. And so that is it for tonight, y'all. That is the two topics. I appreciate those that tuned in. We'll see you next Sunday with another Speaking Freely with more great topics. You might hear some more music. And I'll also see you on Tuesday for the indie experience. We're looking for some guests. If you're an indie artist, like E said earlier, if you're an indie artist, we're trying to give you the exposure you deserve by bringing you on the show. Good night, Miss Beverly. Yep. So so on the Indie Experience podcast, we do a segment called the playlist. So for those of you who will be guests, the indie artists that will be guests, we will play 5 of your songs. It could be from a recent album It could be one. It could be songs from your recent album, past albums, just 5 of your best songs. So that's the first segment called the playlist. We play, then we'll chop it up as we playing the songs, and then when we get to the second segment, which is the spotlight, then that's where we'll get deep in conversation with you, learn about you, the artist, when you got into music. This is for my indie artists, and then the third segment is dropping gems, and that segment is where I will have you drop a gem for artists who are coming up just like you. You know, because people people get treated wrong in when it comes to the music business, and and there are people who basically who gatekeep. So like we want the people to know the steps you took to get to where you're at, and it is. So that's that's basically what dropping gems are. Also on the spotlight, I forgot to mention the spotlight segment. We also do spotlight a video. So if you're an artist that's being interviewed and you have a video that's not one of the songs, it could be the song we played. It could be a song we played. If you have a video, we'll play the video. We'll spotlight the video. Not only do we don't do just artists, like you said, we do entrepreneurs, we do self-published authors. And the reason why I chose self-published authors because these are people who are doing it for themselves. I don't want nobody who is part of a big publishing conglomerate. You understand what I'm saying? Because you're part of a big publishing conglomerate, they can get you off the ground with your books. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you're an artist who's signed to a major label, they can get you off the ground with your music. Those who's going the independent route, they they gotta they gotta do like how we did back in the day. Post post. Well, we didn't have social media back in the day, but they did have street teams. The street team went out, handed out samples. It could be a promotional CD where it had your single and what the next single was going to be on the promotional CD, and it had street teams handing it out. Now that we in the age of the internet and social media is where you have to grind to build your fan base. So if you use TikTok, you use Instagram, Facebook, that's where you got to grind to build your fan base. And so if you're an entrepreneur, you got a product, we're going to talk to you about your product and what made you start your business. Authors, self-published authors, what made you get into writing. We're going to talk about like how many books you've written so far, what made you want to become an author. We're going to talk about all of that on the indie experience. Yep. So that is it for tonight. So if you see the flyer posted to social media on E's page or my page, if you know of an indie artist, you know of someone that is an entrepreneur or someone that's a self-published author, show them the flyer, have them email me because my email is on the flyer. Yep. And then you let me know if you're an entrepreneur when you send the email, or if you're an artist, or if you're a self-published author. And we'll correspond back and forth and then get you on the show. So that is it for Speaking Freely. I'll see y'all Tuesday for the indie experience if we get a guest. We're going to keep working on that before Tuesday hits to get a guest. So I'm going to say peace. I'll see y'all next time. We out, E.